So the Digital Landscape Review is aiming to uncover the most significant challenges currently present in digital services across Wales, and then to make the case that we should work across public services to tackle them. So as we look into these challenges, we don't believe that CDPS owns these. We really think that all of them require us to come together across public services to find a way forward. So we've spoken to a huge range of organisations and services across Wales. I think now we've spoken to more than 40 organisations across local government, across health and care, Welsh Government and arm's length bodies in Wales. We've generally been speaking to digital leaders, but also speaking to service owners. So for example, speaking to the manager of the road maintenance service in a particular council. From these people, we want to understand the strategic challenges they're facing, but also the really practical challenges they face when they actually deliver and run their services. So our first question is always, what challenges are you finding in delivering your digital services? From that then, people have told us about challenges with financing, with procuring digital tools, challenges in knowing what their users need, challenges in designing their service, and then finally challenges in actually running their services and the technology underpinning them. Our job has then been to work out which of those challenges are cross-cutting and which of them are the most common across Wales. So far, 5 have risen to the top, and those are digital procurement, online forms, measuring and tracking, case management, and publishing. So at the moment, CDPS is using this information to think about where it should prioritise its work in this Senedd term. The Landscape Review is one of a few routes to identifying opportunities for us to work on. In the longer term, we think that the data that we're gathering can be really helpful, both to our team in the Landscape Review, but also other teams in CDPS and teams outside of CDPS to understand the kind of challenges that teams are facing, what they're worried about, and why they're worried about it. And we're finding right now this is really helpful in guiding our work around squads, training, and standards. So we're sharing our work through a few routes, but probably the primary route is through our show and tells, which is a fortnightly presentation about the work that we've done and what we found out in the last fortnight. And they're all available on our YouTube channel. We're also feeding back our work regularly to the rest of CDPS and to digital decision makers through our senior leadership team. We're thinking about how to codify our findings and data to make it easily available for CDPS colleagues and wider partners. So we've seen some really great examples of good digital practice in Wales through the Landscape Review. I think 3 examples I'd like to draw attention to. Quite early on, we met with the Welsh Nursing Care Record, which is a great example of a health project taking a user-centred approach to digitising online forms used within hospitals, and then thinking about how nurses and other health and care workers currently and actually should use those forms. We've also seen some great examples of local authorities making their services more accessible and making them available online. For example, Swansea Council has recently transitioned all of their PDF forms to online forms, and set the standard that all of their future services should be using that approach in the future. And then finally, I think we've seen some great examples of how services have adapted to working online through the COVID pandemic, often at great speed. And a good example there is the Welsh Government providing COVID grant funding to businesses online as a different approach. So I think the biggest challenge that the Landscape Review has found is that we haven't seen very consistent use of user research and user-centered design. Many services that we've spoken to have been designed without input from their users, with feedback only provided via questionnaires or complaints after the service has gone live. We would really like to see more user research being done upfront, investigating what users really need, how they currently interact with the service, and what the ideal service would look like to them. We've also seen lots of challenges behind the scenes, for example, with legacy technology making it difficult to transform services and lots of manual processes to keep them running. So we're continuing to engage with services even now, and we're constantly evolving the focus of our research as we learn more and uncover new challenges. We are thinking about the sustainability of the review and how it can best guide CDPS's activities in an efficient way. And that's something that we're continuing to think about now. So the landscape review is most closely linked to mission 1 of the digital strategy for Wales, as we've really been focused on how digital services are delivered. However, I would say that all of the missions are really closely linked. For example, through the landscape review, we've heard from leaders that digital inclusion, which is the fact that there are about 200,000 people in Wales who are not currently online, is one of their key worries. We need to think about digital inclusion and all of the other missions when we're designing great digital services. So I think I'm most excited for us to start tackling the challenges that we've identified. There is so much enthusiasm for delivering and improving digital services in Wales. So I think it's a really exciting time to be working together on this. I'm particularly excited to make the case for why user research upfront and throughout the life of a service is a game changer for making our services as effective as possible for the people who use them.